Seth and Kimber Township.
First of all, good morning.
Good morning.
Oh my gosh, are you serious? Y'all gotta wake y'all's behinds up. It's gonna be a long day for you. So I'm Kimber. I'm better known as Seth's mom, and that's how most people know me. But this is the dude with who walks around. Y'all see him. He just like. All my kids were grown. Seth was the last to leave, and he had graduated at 15. He way back when y'all wasn't even born. Anyway,
You watched,
yes.
How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, he was Doogie Howser. Y'all can Google it. Okay, anyway. So Seth was a triathlete, and he was on a 60-mile ride training for the Ironman, and that was his goal. And he was struck from behind by an 81-year-old woman. I know y'all seen the video, so y'all got the background. Here's the other side of it. And this is the things that I experienced as a mom who did not know what the heck brain injury was. I didn't know anything about a brain injury. I didn't know anything about a disability. And the people that made the most positive impact on this journey is people like what field y'all are going into, whether that's, she named a lot of therapists or coaches. Seth had a lot of them. I'm sure Dylan has had a ton. As people with disability, it's a very layered, complex journey to recovery. And the people that made so much impact in my life, because remember, I don't speak brain injury when this happened, didn't know anything about it. All I knew is the medical things that they would give us, so the science part of it. Well, when you don't speak science and you don't know what they're talking about really, like you still don't really see, first you're in shock, and you're trying to just process what's going on, and you think, okay, it's like a broken arm, or you just got it mended, and you get back to business. You get back to your life you had before. With brain injury, it is not like that at all. Correct, Dylan?
Correct.
Correct. So with brain injury, you walk into a whole new world, and
Gotta relearn how to do everything.
yes, and so what we did is like the doctors would come in and they would give us a really negative, dark, gruesome outcome. Like, this is what the prognosis is. This is how he'll never go past this. He'll never do all of this. And the people that it gave us the hope, because I see in a hospital situation, because we were in the hospital 5 months, the people in a hospital situation, as well as the people that are like with us being in the recovery process, because when we came home from the hospital, after being in there 5 months, it was a whole different journey, and you start navigating through all of the therapies and crazy schedules, and it's very overwhelming as a caregiver. For Seth, the communication issue there, that barrier that broke down, that was really difficult because he had to relearn to speak and of course do everything else. But the people that were so great were the people that were on our paths that, number one, knew how to laugh and knew how to make us laugh. They did not walk in with their hiney in a twist. Y'all know what I mean? y'all gonna learn new stuff today. So, that means they life happens. And so things might have happened to you guys or gals so far, and it threw you into a different path. Well, what I've learned is, if you can find a way to take that part of your life that's bad and understand everybody relates to what you've gone through, your experiences that are hard or that are tough, or one of the nurses on one of the worst days that I can remember, and it was one of many, we'd just been told, you know, all of this horrible list of things that Seth would never do again. And that he wouldn't know who he was. He wouldn't have sense of humor. First of all, that's a lie. Y'all know him, he got a sense of humor. But we were given this long list of negatives and impossibilities. And that was so hard, because I went in there and I'm by myself at the hospital in New Orleans. Nobody was there. And I just sat in the window seat in the corner and cried. Y'all read more about that in the book. It's not depressing. But I sat there and cried because I was just like, man, I need hope. Because that's the only thing that you're literally breathing. It is your oxygen when you're in the middle of a crisis. Hope is the oxygen. And guess what? Babies, it's free. So y'all can give it and not feel like you stepping down off of your career ladder. It doesn't matter if it's someone at the checkout at Walmart, or if it's going to be someone you're coaching or someone you're doing a therapy with. Whatever it is, it costs nothing to just smile, to say something, you know, to get to know this person and be funny. They don't want to be there. Y'all chose that path. They didn't. Whoever you come in contact with did not choose to be in that situation, but you did. So just know that that's a person that had a story that got knocked all the way, like literally hit in the head, and got knocked into a different world. And so did their caregivers or their parents or loved ones or spouse. And so when you come in, yeah, sure, do your job. You know, take their vitals, do whatever you're supposed to do that you're learning here at Tech. And then remember, that's a person. That's a person. And don't you want to be encouraged sometimes? Don't you want somebody to just look at you and say, hey, you're doing a great job?
Oh.
Yeah, give them hope. That's the oxygen. That's the CPR right there. And then, gosh, please say something funny or just be funny. If y'all hear me and Seth, I created an atmosphere, and it was really important. Atmospheres are conducive to healing or to getting sicker. And so surround yourself with like this positive atmosphere. You might be having a bad day today and thinking, you know, I don't know if this is where I want to go. I don't know if that's the path anymore. You might be failing a class. You might have found out your boyfriend or your boo is cheating on you, your best buddy, or your mama. But anyway, so you could have a bad day one day. If it ain't today, you will have a bad day. I promise you. Has anybody had bad days before? Oh, cool. Okay, so don't let me hang it. Good. Those of you that did not raise your hand, you were lying. So anyway, this is the thing. You can find grace and goodness in a bad day. The worst day of your life, the day that your son gets run over and dies twice at the scene and is paralyzed, and you're told, put him, you know, in a hospital institution type thing. He'll never do anything. You're not trained to take care of him. Everybody has a bad day. My bad day ain't your bad day. Yours ain't gonna be mine. But I will tell you, it all comes to the end of the day, somebody being there that just gives you a hope, a smile, a hug. Y'all, hugs are still good, okay? And by the way, if y'all ever see Seth and y'all need a hug, he hugs on everybody. He's got good hugs.
He came and hugged me immediately.
Yeah, I check you out.
No, Thankfully. Thankfully. I wanted to speak today, so I'm glad that he did.
Yeah, he gets great hugs. But,
So Kimber, I'm gonna let y'all, so, I'm gonna let you kind of share a little bit, and then we'll let Dylan tell his story, but I want to tell a little bit about why, you are a little bit of his voice, the scientific kind of.
Okay.
And then we'll let Dylan tell his.
okay, so Seth has a praxis and aphasia due to the traumatic brain injury. It destroyed his whole language center. So it's kind of like, I describe it this way, he's locked in a glass box. Well, it's important to advocate, because if I was not an advocate for him, he can't speak for himself. And he can get his point across, but when he came home, he literally could say, ya, ma, na. That's it. That's all. And so I learned very quickly to speak up for him. And I hope y'all never wind up finding yourself in that kind of position, but if you do, don't take the first no for an answer, or the second, or the third. Keep beating on a door until you get some way that you can get a human being that understands your story. So Seth knows what he wants to say, intelligently wise. His personality's intact. A lot of people ask us that. He is still very funny, and he's witty. He just has his own method of getting his point across. And I think his TikTok, do y'all follow TikTok? I do? Okay, y'all go do it. Not right now, you're gonna get in trouble. Don't take your phones out of class. But after, go follow 𝐇𝐚𝐧𝐝 Foundation on TikTok, YouTube, whatever. It'll be kind of like something you can go back to. There's several speech pathologists and other people that follow Seth, but he's got like almost, what is it today? Like almost 700,000 followers in like almost 16 million likes or something in 2 years and 5 months. So people are interested in getting hope, and they follow Seth because Seth has figured out a way of communicating. That's the cool thing. A lot of times your patients can show you or teach you something.
Mm-hmm.
So always listen to them, because believe me, you might learn something that will help you down the road that's not in the box or in the notebook or pages of things you learned. So that's what we did. So Seth gets his point across, but I've learned to kind of speak, because I fill in all the blanks there.
I'm trying to find, I have the picture. Hey, will you send it to me again, your brain scan?
Yeah, sure.
I have it, I wanna show it to him, but I can't get it to come up on my thing. Oh, wait, hang on.
Do you want me to take any questions while you're transitioning?
Yeah, well, actually, so let's, okay, so let me kind of go, a little bit, I'm trying to drop this on, so, actually, Dylan, why don't you go ahead and tell a little bit of your story? So that, because then I want to kind of talk about just kind of, yeah, go for it. Yeah, go ahead and tell your story.
Okay. All right. My name is Dylan Brown. I was in a duck hunting accident, December 19th, 2010. And me and my buddy was duck hunting, of course, and we was a little inexperienced. We was kind of green to the whole duck hunting scene, and I was really an avid hunter in general, and so I got this idea to ask, my best friend, hey, let's go duck hunting. I really want to be kind of like Duck Dynasty, kind of get a mess of ducks and cook them up. That probably taste good and they're yummy. Well, I like to tell my story in conjunction with my testimony. My testimony is my Bible verse. My Bible verse is Luke chapter 18, verse 42. And the reason why those numbers are so important to me is that it's unique that the numbers line up with my story. My story is, of course, I once was blind. you know, because the gunshot took my sight. And over time, over the amount of years that's passed, I've managed to get my sight back, thank the Lord. You know, that was a really struggle, for me and my family.
How old were you then?
I was 18 whenever my accident happened, and now I am 32.
Wow.
Well, 32. Anyways, my Bible verse is Luke chapter 18, verse 42. And the crazy thing is about those numbers, those numbers were my numbers. All growing up through high school, travel ball, baseball, football. Football was, my number was 42. My baseball number was 18. And in the Bible, Luke chapter 18, verse 42, it says, and Jesus said unto him, receive your sight. Your faith has made you whole. Ain't that just awesome how God works things out and he has things planned to, you know, be specific to us. He has every detail in line. And he knew what would happen that day, and he has a plan worked out. So I started out with physical therapy and doing my therapy at home and doing therapy at Melanie Massey and Glory. So I once was in a wheelchair, so you know, y'all saw me walk in here today. You know, I'm perfectly capable of walking. I still have to have a little bit of assistance with guiding because my vision is still just pinpointed. I'm looking at certain details to orient me in the right way so that I can get where I'm going as quick as possible and as safe as possible. That's the most important thing, is safety. So I do physical therapy and occupational therapy and speech, the whole shebang. So some of you will go into physical therapy, maybe occupational therapy, maybe sometimes speech. I take speech because my gunshot to my head affected my short-term memory. So that still needs to be worked on. But I want to write a book like Seth and Miss Kimberly to tell my testimony and to let people know what can happen, what will happen, and you know what's possible. Because y'all's field that y'all are working in or y'all are gonna work in, y'all might come across people like me who are limited and or probably not might, but probably some might be a outdoors person that can help somebody like me, maybe in a PT class or an OT class, can assist people with goals like that. I still want to go hunting even though I was shot in the head. So and that shows you how smart I am. But anyways, I'm really an outdoors person. I really want to keep that active in my life. I'm not afraid to go hunting. I've even been around guns before and it's not affected me. So it's not like a dramatic
You have still 2 years since your accident.
yeah, I've actually went, y'all heard of the TV show TP Outdoors? I've been hunting with TP Outdoors twice. First time I killed an 8-point, and the second time I killed me a doe. So I got me some deer meat.
Goody.
So I'll kind of drive, because some of this story, I know, so we mentioned that, I showed y'all my book the other day, that Seth and Kimber put together a book of her story. And I know a lot of these stories, and I've been reading, and it's like there's little things that kind of poke out. And this is kind of where, when we talk about there's a reason for, you know, why these things happen, and especially when you go into, you know, Seth's story and even Dylan's story, you know, read the book to know what Seth, what did you wanna do for a living other than helping people? What did you want to use to help people?
Yeah.
I know,
What
what,
classes were you taking?
no, like, what was taken from you that you were gonna use to help people?
Speak.
Speech?
You don't know what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he said it, speech.
Yeah.
His ability to speak, and I also wanted to kind of talk about the healing they've been through, okay? So, when I met Seth 8 years ago, I asked him a question, and I ask him this every time, and he answers it every time, and he gets better every time, he does it this fast. But I asked him, I said, hey, how old are you? And Dylan told you, and I noticed you did it too.
Yeah.
How old are you?
29.
29, okay. So when I asked him that question, when I met him, he had to say it broken. It was 2 and 1. And did you remember going through those stages where you couldn't put words together?
Yeah, I struggled with that a lot. And
Yeah.
somebody had to keep reminding me, how old are you doing?
Yeah.
What is your name?
So,
Who's your mom?
Yeah.
What's your mom's name?
yeah,
And so multiple questions over and over and
Yeah.
over again.
well, so this is what's been so fascinating, and I want to talk about like some of your recent stuff that's happened with Seth. So y'all see, this is his frame on the screen, okay? So which one on the left, Kimber, which one is that?
That's the one that they took before. This is the one where the,
So this was after, right after the accident, correct? The one on the left?
this was, no, it was a few months after. And
Okay,
then this was like just a few days after.
okay,
It just went down.
yeah.
That's a healing thing.
Yeah, so, okay, so, when I met Seth, this was so that would have been in 2014-ish that I met y'all, 2015. So, when I met Seth, again, development, how many years are y'all out now? Is it 10?
11 and a half.
11 and a half, so it would have been within a couple of years, okay? So just here recently, it was before COVID, so I'm gonna start and tell the story and then Kimber's gonna know where to go. So, when I met them, we got to know each other really well because y'all are gonna help with the Special Olympics in a couple of weeks. We got to know each other well because Kimber was our matriarch that helped us plan our Special Olympics several years ago. And we were in a meeting, and at the time, Seth had a very lush head of black curly hair. And, I mean, you notice he's covered in tattoos. His hair is obviously not black because his beard is red, but he had dyed his hair black. And he comes into the meeting, and he's like, hey, like trying to tell me he wants to cut his hair. And I'm like, or shave your head.
Shave
And
his
I'm like,
head.
no! You're gonna be so scary. You're already scary enough. Do not shave your head. And he was like, yeah, shave it. And I was like, no. So tell him what happened that night.
Yeah, so March 1st, his birthday, we just got back. He'd been like begging us to shave the curls. And I was like, girls like curls. Do not shave it. And that night he came home and wanted me to shave it. I was like, no, not doing it, not participating in that. I hear the razor going in the bathroom. Y'all.
He said, fine.
Yeah. He did it himself. Well, he wound up, I hear him go, oh crap, you know, and so, you know how to say that word. And so I go, oh God, I go in there and I literally looked like he had mange. It was like just the hair down, and it was really terrible. So I had to go ahead and shave his head. Well, it's a good thing we did because we found out for a year he had been leaking brain fluid. Now, this was not long after we'd gotten back from competing. This was in 2018. So it was not long after we had gotten back from competing. And, I'm sorry, 2019, because 2018 was when we did compete. But he found out that the brain fluid was leaking. He had 3 little openings there.
We just thought he was sweating.
Yeah, we thought he was just extra sweaty, you know, so, but he wasn't, he was actually leaking brain fluid, and lifting the weights and stuff was like making it worse. So, Seth wound up having to have a deep tissue skin graft Those of you who have followed him for a while, if you haven't, it's quite humorous, but the place that the doctors chose that was the most viable is his right hand, right here, this section right here, and if he turns it sideways, I don't know if you can see, it looks like a chunk is gone because it's a chunk that's gone. And they took his main artery from here, and then that part, round part of Grim Reaper's head, which is hilarious, but they put it up here to close the wound. So he was walking around with this tattoo like a cyborg on his head right there, perfect round thing. Well, he
puts filters on it. Or
he used the, what is it, Snapchat filters,
Yeah,
and was
hair
doing
and glasses.
Snapchat filters on it,
No,
So-
show them your Snapchat filters where you decorate.
yeah, so he would do Snapchat filters, and, that was a whole nother world, okay? That
What
showed
did that,
his humor.
what did that lead to? That actually has kind of, sort of been a blessing.
I'm sorry.
So like all of the kind of the surgeries,
Yeah.
this is fascinating. Those of you that are really heavily interested in going into like surgical or orthopedics or even cardiology, it's like fascinating. So kind of tell a little bit of that.
So Seth wound up, he got sideswiped by an 18-wheeler, hit his head perfect, it chipped a little piece of bone under there that they did not realize or find till like multiple surgeries, because it wouldn't heal. So they took another deep tissue, and y'all can go look at this. I wish you had a picture of this. This is so freaky. Another one where he's got his,
The bulge.
yes, that's his muscle. Hey, Seth, do you have that picture of where you got?
He looks like a thing off of Star Wars.
Yes, what do they call, what's it?
Chewbacca?
No.
He looked like the guy with
Ahsoka.
Ahsoka.
Yeah.
Ahsoka.
Close. Ahsoka.
Yeah, that thing.
Yeah, she got the ear, the hair. Yeah.
Or a Twilight.
Wow, Star Wars thing.
Y'all,
Okay.
whoever speaks it, y'all know what that is. But, so it was this thing, send it to Lacey when you find it, the one of your,
This,
no, yeah, but of you sitting up, keep going. I don't know. No, you know.
Okay, so let me give y'all a little timeline. So had Seth not shaved his head like the rest of us told him to do, they would not have found out. What was ultimately happening was the heavy lifting that y'all saw him doing on Wednesday was putting pressure on his brain. Our brains have the ability to regulate brain fluid. His does not. I'm assuming, Dylan, you probably have similar issues, but haven't been lifting 400 pounds.
No, I'd like to.
Yeah, so when that happened, he was having these issues, and that was something that they didn't see until he shaved his head. So he had surgeries, was working towards getting that better, got that better, and then ended up having another accident. Seth can drive, so y'all know that. Seth drives, he's got his driver's license, he's got a vehicle, he goes all over town. Some of y'all, I think somebody told me y'all seen him in the grocery store, roaming around. But when that happened, that brought on, gosh, how many surgeries, Kimber, after he had the 18-wheeler accident? And then trips to Shreveport?
He just had his 18, the trips to Shreveport, I cannot even count.
It was a
There was
really long, that was
a
like
few
a
months we were
2-year,
going literally every single day for hyperbaric treatment.
it was a
every
2-year
day.
process, wasn't it? Three, yeah.
3 years.
Of multiple surgeries and, trying to, and I'm gonna let her explain, the last surgery that he had is fascinating.
So the last surgery that they did, he's got a picture that he can show you, and it's, they took his latissimus muscle. Y'all know what that is, because y'all are in kines, right? It's the big muscle that runs from here to here. So now he has a scar from here to here, and they took his main artery from that muscle. So they put it, that piece, and I'm talking about it's thick, how thick did they say, was that 4 inches?
It was 10 by 10 centimeters.
Yeah,
But I don't
it's,
remember how big.
it's super thick. They took that piece of muscle and actually put it here and ran it behind his ear down to here. So, and then put the other main artery here. One is in front from the first surgery, one is in the back. And they both go into his carotid to make that blood flow go to that skin graft, so it's viable. So that's what, yeah, I don't know if that'll gross them out too bad or not. They might go, ooh, that's so cool, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, so to think about this, and this is where I wanna kinda go with where, and the massive improvements that his brain has had in the last, gosh, I feel like 3 months since all
Yeah.
that. Cause when was the last,
The last surgery he had that actually corrected everything
Yeah.
was,
March 8th last year.
yeah,
Okay.
it was March
So,
8th last year.
Did y'all catch that they took his lat and they literally took additional,
A main
like,
artery.
arteries and went in, regrafted those in so that he can get more blood to his
Yeah.
brain? Like, don't know
Yeah.
how cool that is?
Yeah.
Like,
And then they actually shave off, which is, it sounds gross, but it's cool. But they shave off, with this special device, the part that they actually closed up, this part. No, I'm sorry, that they took, they cover it. You have to take skin from another place to cover the skin graft where they took the other skin graft. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So he has it on his thighs too.
yeah, so the fact, like, so here's where I'm kinda going with this. So they tell you the brain, and that's the same thing was told to Dylan, they tell you the brain cannot recover. That the brain
Yes.
cannot,
We were
will
told
not,
that.
will not heal, will not change. I don't see Seth every day. I am very lucky if I get to see him once a quarter, because this is when they come to see me. But I have seen massive changes. And just in the last, like, 4 months, 5 months, because he has more blood supply now
Mhm.
to his brain. So even like, the way this looks, I mean, even a year ago, this was not
It wasn't
this,
atrophy.
it was not this clean. It looked injured.
Well, it
It
was
was-
closed.
Yeah.
It took, that, if you go back and look, if y'all are interested in that, if you're going into anything medical, it is really, really cool. But, it was the muscle, and they have to pierce it several times to let it loose. So it really looked freaky.
Yeah, there was a little while, he
So
walked in
freaky.
the door and I was like, "Ugh."
Yeah, it looked so freaky.
Thank you.
I know, right?
But that muscle actually, that they put up there, the cool thing is, it atrophied, so it drew up. And that's why it's like gone down so much, but if you see how much it was sticking out, you go, there's no way that's gonna go down. But it did, and you can't even really tell that what they did up there now. But it closed that wound up. See, as long as it was leaking brain fluid, even the
Yeah.
shunt could not compensate to levelize the
Yeah.
pressure, and it was an underlying infection all that time from that shard of bone, little
Yeah.
tiny shard of bone.
So thinking about that, Seth lost the left hemisphere, correct?
Yes, he
Yes.
lost, yeah, and some frontal, and his brain stem herniated. Yeah,
Wow.
he should be dead, yeah, for real, dead.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
So Dylan, do you know kind of some of the details of yours? So, because y'all have it's kind of interesting to have standing right here, 2 people that survived severe traumatic brain injury that were told they would never do anything again, sitting here and able to talk to you guys. But yet 2 very different outcomes.
Yeah.
I was told by countless, doctors that I would never walk, I would never be able to talk, and I'd never be able to see again. So, here I am wearing glasses. These are bifocal glasses for me to be able to read better, so I don't have to go to blind school and go to learn how to read Braille and stuff like that. Even though there's nothing wrong with that, but I chose a different path. I wanted to learn how to read just normal, without any assistance. But I lost train of thought.
Yeah.
But
So with yours, so what side of your brain, do you know what side of your brain was
I
damaged?
believe that it was the left side, because my right side is affected.
Yeah.
So I think that's how it works. It goes the opposite side of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it was my left brain injury that affected my right side.
Yeah.
I had what was called, I hope I'm getting this name right, whenever I was in the hospital, it was called a venous sinus stroke. and I don't believe it has anything to do with my sinuses. But that's what I believe that it was called. So it, of course, it affected my right side, and I'm still working on, recovering the mobility of my shoulder, my hand, and my feet, and everything. But it's getting better day by day. It's, that old saying, if you don't use it, you lose it. So I got therapy exercises that I have to do and keep being active, because that's just, it feels kind of, it gets a little hopeless feeling whenever you realize or feel like your body is losing the movement that it used to be able to do. So,
Well, and that's where I was actually gonna go next. I don't know if I can show this.
It's great.
It's
It's great. If they didn't.
I didn't watch horror. It's not horror movies.
Can I mention one thing, Lacey?
Yeah.
One thing that we were told, by the way, is that, and this is by a doctor, neurologist, she actually told us that, that whatever Seth is as far as how far he's progressed in what he's recovered from the brain injury, that as of a year to the date of the accident, that's all he'll ever do or be. And that's why I said it's so important to give hope, because the nurse that walked in that day, I didn't get to finish that story, it was the day that he showed me the first scan. We're the ones that did the parallels, so you could see the difference. But the first scan, and he said, you see all this white? This is where all the brain has been damaged, and it's dead and gone forever. It doesn't come back, it doesn't heal in that spot, it's forever vacant. So they're saying, he'll never do all of this stuff and I'll heal it. Well, a nurse walked in and said, I know what they said, I know what the medical journals say, but can I tell you what I've seen? That's all I needed. I just needed somebody to say, okay, I can't tell you medically, scientifically, that's what the journals say, and that's what science says or medicine says, but I can tell you what I've seen. And that's where you can, look guys, I know you can only give so much, like, you gotta not give false hope, right? But I don't believe any hope is false. I believe if you can say, just keep fighting, just keep pushing, because Seth, and even Dylan mentioned it, but Seth got into exercise, and there's a lot of non-conventional things we did therapy-wise.
And that's what I'm talking about, goals, okay? So you guys are gonna be setting goals, you're gonna be setting things that you're gonna be trying to achieve. Seth, how does, actually you have them on your phone, don't you? Your things you're working towards?
Yeah.
Yeah, so how has goals helped you?
Yeah, mine, so, yeah.
So actually, we'll kind of show this. So Dylan has the ability to speak, okay? Seth doesn't. So how do you speak?
Yeah, so, phone, food,
So how many of you use your notes app in your phone? Okay. Seth uses it to communicate. Okay. Seth has folders. Think of like your brain has folders that you pulled from to share stories. How many of you have a story that you find yourself having to tell over and over and over again because people ask it, it's something that happened to you, and you have to tell that story over and over and over again because it's significant about you. Okay. Seth's the same way. Okay. And Dylan can get his out of his mouth. Okay, and share his story verbally.
I have.
Do you have one on your phone too?
Yes, I have an app on reminders and notes, and I even have Alexa at home.
Yeah.
Echo.
Yeah.
What's the date?
Yeah.
And then yeah. And so what's the joke of the day?
Yeah.
So it's like I want to laugh.
So Dylan actually lives by yourself,
Right.
don't you? Yeah.
I have Tanya to help me Monday through Friday, and I'm alone on Saturdays and Sundays, and do my own laundry and clean my own bathroom.
Isn't that cool?
I really.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah, but it was repetition. It was over and over. Like I said at the beginning, my short-term memory has had a lot of work to be done. So Tanya, she had to like drill it and like a drill sergeant over and over again until it was permanently in my mind.
So,
You gotta explain it backwards.
yeah, so I know, okay, so I'm gonna ask Seth, and then I'll ask you,
Okay.
what do you remember of life before?
Past,
Yeah, past.
yeah, Lincoln, real Sprinter,
Very,
Lincoln.
so is it really more stuff that your mom and your family have reminded you of?
Yeah, but past, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Saying, oh, Seth,
Yeah,
yeah, so past.
You're a new Seth.
Real, cool, past, yeah, old.
you
so-
died and you're a new person.
Yeah,
He said
so,
it feels like it's somebody else.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
people are talking about it,
yeah,
or he sees another picture of
yeah,
himself
it's,
from before the
and
accident.
past,
Yeah.
this is crap,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so how much do you remember, Dylan, of before you had your accident?
My long-term memory is
Still good?
really, it's good.
Yeah.
It's not the best, I will admit, it's not the best, but
Yeah.
it's a lot better than my short-term memory.
Yeah.
So I remember, before my accident, doing the whole, y'all heard of Tony Horton, P90X, right? So that's what I was into before my accident. So kinda like Seth, being a bodybuilder, I was, or a power lifter, I'm sorry if I got that wrong, but, like I was real into, outdoorsy stuff and, lifting weights and everything like that. And, if y'all are interested, I have pictures probably way back on my Facebook profile that, may have a couple of pictures still left of, what I looked like before my accident. I was full. I was like,
Swole.
people told me a lot that, dude, are you taking steroids? Like seriously. But, that's, just something that there's, you see, you got it? Okay.
You see his arms? That light, Seth, it was.
Yeah. Well, and that's something to think on too, is, Kimber touches on this in the book. When individuals have this significant of a brain injury, and they're told, these things are never gonna happen, they're also told they're not gonna be the same person. And what's so amazing, and this is, I'll say this about just TBIs in general, there are the exception to the rule for a lot of situations with TBIs, but the being told you're not gonna have your personality, what was Seth like before?
Besides being cocky, he was very charismatic, very outgoing. He was a public speaker. He's a youth pastor, so he's used to doing things like that. He was a advocate for social justice and a youth mentor. Just very, very charismatic, very outgoing, and he still is like that. His personality stayed intact, but a lot of them that with brain injury, it does not. It completely. They told us Seth would be flat, like the table that you're sitting in front of, literally flat, like no expression, no
Vegetable.
personality, no nothing. And
Vegetables.
he's not. But he's very funny. He did still wear his shirt like that, where you could see his nipples most of the time.
Oh.
Yeah, so I don't know if he's nip proud. Hey, anyway. So his personality is still intact, and he's funny and he's still outgoing. If I'm not with him, because Seth drives, Seth's able to he'll go to Walmart and go shopping and go do his stuff, go do his thing, go to the gym or whatever. But he's able to do that by himself.
So thinking about who Seth was before, how many people do you think you would have reached had it not been for the accident?
Saints, things.
Your church,
Yeah,
probably just the people at your church, right?
yeah, past, crap. Yeah. Mine, something, dead, yeah,
He couldn't have reached as many
Yeah.
people.
yeah.
I say he was a youth pastor, so obviously,
Yeah.
spoke a lot.
I got it, phones, this.
But like now, how many people do you
Yeah.
reach?
Yeah, man, yeah.
And it's with limited vocabulary,
Yeah,
right?
of course, but people guys, so, yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Dylan?
Same.
I was kind of similar, I was been told countless times that, Dylan, you have no clue how many people you touch. Even though you can't see it, literally, or
Figuratively.
you know, you can't understand or comprehend, and maybe you won't ever comprehend until you're in heaven and God tells you, look, this is how many people you brought to me. So, you know, it touches me that I can give my testimony and know that I'm alive for a purpose. And I'm so grateful that I get the opportunity to tell my testimony and be able to see. I mean, that's a huge, huge benefit. I love, and I'm still waiting on the opportunity to go back to my doctors, my eye doctors, and you know, who told me, Dylan, we'll never see you again.
Yeah.
You know, he needs to learn breath. So, you know, I thought, whatever. I'm going hunting.
So I told a different story last quarter. So I've mentioned to you, you'll actually get to see a video of him, I think, next week. So my oldest child was born extremely premature. He was in the hospital for 3 months, nowhere near as long as Seth and Kimber and Dylan were. But I'm going to tell a different one than I told last time. So you're thinking about like the people that you reach and not even realizing it. So when Ollie was born, he was born in 2012. Facebook was just really starting to grow. It's actually about the time that they had taken Facebook and made it public, where you didn't have to have a school email to get Facebook. And our family was here, and we were in Austin. So we were 7 hours away, in a different state, in a different place, in a different situation. And we made a little website to communicate with our family, and we would post on Facebook about his stuff. And now that's pretty common. When people have medical issues or whatever, they communicate and they use that as a way to do, but that wasn't the norm back then. So we made this website because we got really tired of repeating ourselves over and over again. I mean, and it's, would y'all say the same thing? And because it kind of felt like when you were constantly having to communicate with people about what was happening, you couldn't be present in the moment.
Right.
With the person that you needed to be there with. And so,
Always living in the past.
yeah, and so we made this website. We would post pictures every night. And it kind of became this kind of recovery ritual for my husband and I. And so my husband would bring his laptop. We would be in the NICU till 2, 3 in the morning. So we were very lucky we didn't have another child at the time. And so we could just go and spend our nights with Ollie in the NICU. And so we would have taken pictures during the day. I did not have an iPhone, guys. We had a point and shoot camera. My husband did have an iPhone, so he could take video and send, and we could upload to the computer. We maintained this website. And because he was in the hospital for such a long time, I had to go back to work. Like, it wasn't like I could just say, I'm off. I have maternity leave for 3 months. You know, our country doesn't work that way. So I had to go back to work because I worked in aquatics. And my busy season was coming. And I had to get ready for what my job was going to require me. And something happened in my pool. Our motor broke. And for large facilities like that, you can't just go to Lowe's and buy a piece. You have to go to a specific manufacturer. And at the time, the only motor in the state of Texas that we could purchase to get my pool back up and running happened to be in Tyler. So, I mean, y'all know Tyler just across the Texas state line. So it's about 4.5 hours away from where we were, and then again about 2.5 hours away from where my family was. So they could either ship it to us, which is going to take like 3 days, or one of us could just go get it. And so I said, you know what, I need the time. Like, I could really just use, you know, some time by myself. I mean, think about how time was for you. Just like having, you know, a little bit of time to just like not thinking about anything, let me just drive. So I said, I'll go, I'll take the day, I'll just drive up. Ollie was in a state where he was just kind of consistent. So I drove and got to Tyler, picked up the motor, and had to stop and get gas before I could come home. So I stopped at this gas station, like on the outskirts of Tyler, random gas station, not like somewhere that I knew. I had never stopped there before in my life. And it's a Monday morning, or Monday, by this time it's like middle of the day on Monday. And I walk in, buy my gas, and I wanted to get a drink, something to eat before I got back on the road. And I'm standing there in line, there's a woman in front of me, and then there's the checkout lady. And I hear them talking, and they said, oh, did y'all get any updates about that baby? And the lady said, oh, no, I wasn't in church yesterday, but let me reach out to so-and-so, I bet they've got the updates on the baby. And they start talking about some of the things that have been happening. So Ollie had massive surgery when he was 10 days old. He lost about half of his large intestine. The surgery that he had, only 20% of babies that progressed to surgery actually survive his surgery. When we left, when he went into surgery, there was a greater chance that he wasn't gonna come back than it was that he was gonna come back. And we didn't know that at the time. We knew it was serious, we didn't know how serious it was. They were talking about my baby in that gas station, in the middle of nowhere, 4.5 hours from where I lived, and 2.5 hours from where anyone in my family lived. These two random women in a gas station. We're talking about my kid. And God put me there to be there for those two women. In a random gas station.
And it encouraged you probably. didn't
Oh
it?
my
You were-
gosh, I
That,
cried
you
the whole
felt
way home.
alone when you're in a situation like what we were in.
Well, but it showed me the impact that my story and my kid was having on other people. And this is again before social media. Now you learn about people from all over the country and their stories. And this was not the norm back then. So to know that told me that I now had a voice. And that my kid had a voice, even though he was a little teeny tiny 3-pound baby laying in an isolette that might not make it 3 or 4 days. You know, one small little thing could have taken his life. You have no idea how impactful your actions and your words could be. And I mean, those were just two people, you know? So I love for them, I love to have Seth, I love for you to come and listen to them, because your words have power. And some of you, whether you want to or not, are going to be working with individuals who life just sucks. I mean, just sucks. So how are you gonna plan your words? How are you going to put your baggage away that day and just help, you know?
Can I,
Yeah.
say, like, something, like, it's a word of wisdom that, my aunt, she's kind of, pretty spiritual, and I look up to her for wisdom sometimes, and she came to me one day whenever I was at home, and she said, Dylan, I have a word of wisdom from the Lord to tell you, to, give you some hope, and, you know, I was like, okay, I wasn't expecting what she then told me. She said, the Lord told me, delay does not mean denial. So that tells you, you know, anybody that you may treat or come across or something that may be struggling with something, you know, just the state that they're in then at that moment doesn't mean that they're stuck there. So I just want to give that hope and that little brief statement. Delay does not mean denial. And that goes along with a lot of people that you might come across or, you know, treat or something. Just because you may not see the progress immediately, or maybe 3 months, or 6 months, or maybe even a year, you know, the progress is gonna come. Just keep at it. Keep at it. You know, it's just, persistence pays off.
Yeah.
So,
How many of you are ready to graduate college? My
Mhm.
senior? It's not always gonna be this way. Like, know that. It's not always gonna be this way. Do y'all have any questions?
I'd love some feedback. Yeah, if you wanna follow me, I just recently, I learned from Seth, Miss Kimberly, create a TikTok, tell my story and everything, so my, TikTok, name is Dill Pickle 81,
DYL.
DYL.
Dill pickle. Oh.
81. If you wanna follow me, that'd be great.
DYL.
DYL Pickle.
What's yours? Seth, what's yours?
And Seth Foundation on every platform. There was someone that had their hand up.
What y'all got? Ask it.
Just kind of these, what's y'all's goals, just, I guess,
Well, I think-
progressing every day.
Seth, I mean, well, I can tell you a little bit, and I'm gonna let Seth talk about it, but Seth's changed a lot. When the brain, and Kimber and I talked a lot about this too, but when they found the brain fluid, that changed
They
everything.
had to stop everything. They said you cannot pick up a milk jug. And here's a power lifter. You know, that became his identity. I mean, he just competed at the USA Special Olympic Games. It's centerfold in the ESPN magazine. They did a story on him, but it was all based around his powerlifting. So when he lost that because he couldn't do it anymore, they said, never again will you be a power lifter. You can't lift heavy weights. He actually was going into Paralympics too, and all of that stopped. I mean, it was a lot of things that, one more time, his whole life just kind of got put on hold. But, yeah, I think Seth's goals right now is trying to find out, we just wrote the book, we're speaking a lot and traveling, doing some of that as well. By the way, if y'all wanna go get his book, it's, on Amazon, and we have some here today, if y'all wanna sign a copy. It is at the bookstore right here on Tech, campus, so that's really cool. But it tells a lot of things, and we've got a lot of therapists that are buying that because they said there's practical things in there that are not the medical side, but the side of like dealing with people with like what happened to us, like just something hit you. So that book has a lot of things in there, how to find purpose in your pain, dealing with grief, motivational atmosphere, just empowering tips in there.
Yeah, well, and I'll say this too from it, I mean, some of you are going to, well, some of y'all might have already, I know there's a couple of you that have, you ever been in one of those situations where, you're in a really bad place, and you just need, you need to know that other people have been through the same thing that you have? And you scrap and you look for anything that anyone else has been through, just to know that you're not the only one. Kimber talked about, oh, and this was something for me too, like, probably Bill and you as well, the struggle of why. Like, why is this happening? Guys, I was a healthy 27-year-old person who, I ate well, I exercised daily. I exercised for my job. So I exercised on top of exercising for my job. I, didn't drink, I didn't smoke, I was married and was having a kid. Like, I had done everything the way that it was supposed to.
All the right things.
All the right things. All the right things. I had planned, I had interviewed my OBGYN, I interviewed that person. I didn't just go to a random hospital and ask for somebody. I literally put in the work. And then to have what happened to us happen, there was and I'm sure y'all might have been the same way, and you talk about this kind of in the book, but I was like, why? We got in there and there was a 15-year-old mother in the NICU with us that didn't even know who the daddy of her baby was. It actually created some As the World drama. Have y'all ever soap opera drama? Kind of was entertainment for us when she had to figure out who the daddy of the baby was. kind of distracted us a little bit. But here I was, I had done everything right, and here was this girl, and then like, I had to walk through the NICU, the way that they had it structured. You had to walk through labor delivery to get to the NICU. Do you know that I found ways to get away? Like, it hurts. So, finding somebody, or even just a little bit of hope, and finding somebody who has a similar thing that she went through, like, as I was reading this, I was just like, yep. Like, even though it's two totally different stories. There is a story that I know is in here, but I'm not gonna have them go into great detail. I'm gonna introduce it because it's gonna make you want to buy the book so you can hear the story. Okay, so 2020, November of 2020, obviously we were all at home, and so Seth and Kimber joined us via Zoom for our class that year, that fall. And that was a Friday. The night before, the afternoon before, one of our former students was riding his bicycle on 167 in Quibbin, and he was rear-ended on his bicycle. And airlifted to Shreveport. His fiance, who was supposed to be married in 2 weeks, he was getting married in 2 weeks. His fiance, I had known her since she was a baby. Like, she's from where I'm from. She was one of our students that had gone, I knew her from the time she was a kid on through college. Her parents go to church with my parents. Her sister's actually one of our majors today. I immediately, when this happened on Thursday, I immediately called Kimber and said, hey, I need you to get in touch with Victoria. Like, I need you to get in touch with her. Like, whether you just send her a text message or something, like, this has happened and it's not good. So she did, and you actually got to talk to her. She answered the phone.
I called. Yeah.
When Zach got to the hospital, do you know that the 2 nurses that he was given, both of those nurses had lost their fiancés to an injury or an illness before they got married? Yeah. So that morning, that Friday morning, fast forward to Friday morning, they did a talk. And after the class ends, we stayed on to talk. And Kimber and I are both, we don't know Zach's status at this point. So we're both crying, upset, talking about it. And Seth, what did you do?
Oh, God.
Seth was smiling. And we were like, what? Okay. All right, let's tell a little bit. Okay, and then y'all have to get it so you can read the story.
Yeah.
Why do you do that?
Why do you not get upset? Yeah.
Who did you see when you died?
Jesus. Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, stop. So then y'all have to buy the book so you can get the story.
And it's not, look, this is not a fluffy hype thing. When y'all read that part of the book, and then even him meeting the lady that kid, and we never heard from them. I mean, there's a lot of reasons you can get angry at life or what happened. But
Yeah.
Seth never would get mad, or, well, not mad, but upset. And like other people, because, you know, when you pastor a church and you have people pass away, you go to comfort them. And Seth would be like, why y'all crying? I don't understand why y'all crying. So, and he would say they're happy, they're getting to be where we want to be. And, you know, they're getting to touch Jesus. And so Seth's viewpoint is different because it's like, yes, this is awesome. And he would get so excited and happy, and I'd be like, dude, what is wrong with you? You got a brain injury? I mean, what's wrong? You ain't had somebody die.
And at that point, I had known y'all for like 5 years, and they had been coming to my class 3 times a year for years, and I had never heard the story, and I was just like, what? So, yeah, it's.
You have to read, you have to buy the book and read
We'll
it.
tell you Zach did not survive. He passed away that afternoon, but, it's yeah. But it's, yeah. Maybe I'll stop there, because I want y'all to read it.
Yeah, take them.
Read a book and learn. Do y'all have any other questions that y'all wanna ask? I wanna get a group picture before y'all leave, so I wanna finish in those folders, in his phone, he can tell you all about it.
Yeah,
Well, what he's willing to share.
yes.
And then the ebook has more too.
The ebook, I will say this, we have the hard copy books
Yeah.
with us, and they're in the bookstore, the hard copies, but if you got like $5, you can go $4.99 is how much the ebook is, and it's got hyperlinks that, take you actually to videos, and it has actual pictures and lots of stuff on the hyperlinks with the ebook.
Yeah.
But,
Actually, there's a link to the Team Seth Foundation website on our middle page. There's actually a story and there's pictures of when he met, the woman who hit him. And her, kind of what ended up,
Yeah,
taking her life.
yeah,
She had Alzheimer's.
yeah.
And Seth,
It's a great.
It's a great
look,
story.
It's beautiful. It's a story of forgiveness and grace for sure.
TikTok is asking what's the name of the book.
Push Through It, the Seth Hanchey story, and don't hate Oregon, is there? Oh, I can get it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
going real quick.
all right, so you may have any questions? If not, I'm gonna have y'all come up to the front. We're gonna get a picture really quick with Seth and Dylan before they head out. Come say hello.